Graham was just sort of frustrating person. I never could make out who Graham was. He seemed to float through it, all sucking on that pipe day and night.
Graham was a mystery. Graham was just a sort of the only times I had lunch with him, we really hadn't got much to say to each other, really.
There was something about Graham, and it was quite different from the way the others were. There was a sort of seriousness in the performance, but an awareness of the comedy at the same time.
Sitting in script conferences and suddenly saying, lemon curry? Always gave you hope, I thought, when Graham came out with something off the wall like that.
Lemon curry?
And he was also an amazing sounding board. He's the only person I've ever come across who had such an extraordinary ability to say the audience will think that's funny. But he just didn't work properly. He should have been sent back to the factory and fixed, and then he would have been terrific. The simple stuff, getting the lines right, hitting his marks. He just was not an efficient creature, and I don't mean efficient in a Prussian sense. He just didn't have basic efficiencies. He was always late. Michael told you the story, I'm sure.
I'd go round to Graham's flat in the morning to pick him up and hoot the horn. He was right up on the sort of 4th floor. And you never know who would open the window. It wouldn't be Graham. It'd be someone from some part of the world, usually younger than Graham, would say, "He coming in a minute." and I don't want to know that. I just need him down here in the car. So I would sometimes, regularly have to wait for 15, sometimes 20 minutes for dear old Graham. He'd come down, "Oh, terribly sorry, just a really long night. Interesting person from Bhutan. Meet many Bhutanese and awfully interesting chap."
How long did it take you to decide, if you like, to come out the closet, to use the common expression?
I didn't like being dishonest, really, and I was having to be. I thought I had to be, because I didn't think that people around me would understand. It took me some time to understand. After all, this was when I was about 25. 24, I was thinking of getting married. I had a steady girlfriend. We'd been together for about a year. And then suddenly I found that wasn't quite what I really wanted, deep down inside.
John Cleese, I think, was most uncomfortable when he discovered that he had been working all this time with someone he thought he knew, but now discovered he didn't know.
He was not the sort of person to, I thought, take very kindly to a little piece of news like that about a friend of his that used to smoke a pipe and play rugby and climb rocks and things like that. He was rather shocked, actually.
We were all, maybe shocked is the wrong, we were surprised. We didn't mind that he was gay, but we were very, very surprised. And I think Graham sometimes took the surprise for disapproval, shocked disapproval. It was just amazing, you know. It was as though Michael Palin had turned to me and said, "I'm Chinese," you know. So I've nothing against you, Michael, but it is a surprise.
You were, in fact, an alcoholic, were you?
Yes, I did a lot of drinking, a great deal, a very great deal indeed, Michael, yes.
You were an alcoholic?
Safely say yes. I did do a very great deal.
Yeah, why was that, do you think?
I think, well, I don't know, really, the answer to that. Deep inside, I think, actually, that I was insecure. I didn't really feel that I'd deserved the success that I'd achieved, as it were. I think that was it. Who was laughing at that?
Yes.
Strange reaction. I'll come and sort you out later on.
No. The interesting thing about Python is I don't think anybody had the slightest interest in each other as people. We didn't know about each other. We didn't get together and talk about this and that, you know. We might have a drink, but it wasn't close bosom friends. I don't think anybody noticed Graham was an alcoholic until long after he was crawling around the floor barking and putting his hands up girls' skirts. You know, "Oh, he's Graham, he's so weird."
He wasn't a sort of ugly drunk. He was quite jovial and quite prone to trouser dropping and various outrageous songs. And I never had a problem with him at all, except in the work context, because, you know, you'd meet about 10:30 in the morning and Graham would be putting tonic into whatever it was. And you'd have a real burst of an hour and a half. And he was fizzing and popping, and it was a joy writing with him. And then 12 noon, ooh, just the one, and we go to the Angel pub in Highgate and goodbye day. That was it. Very pleasant afternoon, but no work taking place.
When we were doing the shows, it was a little bit of a nightmare because, you know, if it was after lunch, it was hopeless doing Graham, because Graham couldn't remember his lines.
I remember going once up to Scotland for a take. We were filming up in Glencoe, and I got there and I met the special effects man on the train, got shit-faced, and we were drunk, and I slept all day the next day, and I got up, and they still hadn't done the first take of Graham with Lake Tahoe. They'd done 43 slates.
Sometimes it would be quite funny, and other times it would just be, he'd just irritate people for the sake of it, like, you know, telling these people in a little pub near Oban in Scotland, where we were doing some filming, that he'd slept with Ted Heath, who was then the Prime Minister, you know. I mean, might have slept with Ted Heath for all I know, but it seemed unlikely. But Graham just irritated these people, just having, you know, nice Scottish farmers having a little chat about how wonderful Edward Heath was and all that. And Graham said, I know all about him because I slept with him. And they were very bizarre. And I thought, Graham, please, don't one like that.
The moment when I think we all realised for the first time that it was becoming a huge problem, and we were shooting now something completely different. And we were shooting the Upper Class Twit of the Year show, and we were in a trailer or a caravan, and we were looking for the script. We needed to check something in the script. And Michael Palin said, "Oh, Gray's got a script. I saw he was reading it this morning because they travelled up together in the car." And Michael opened up this little suitcase that Gray had, you know, a very small one, to get the script out. He took the script out and he did a double take. And he picked up the bottle of vodka. And he said, "That was full this morning." And it was half empty, and it was before lunch. And I think we all kind of went, "Oh."
How much at your peak, so to speak, how much were you drinking?
4 pints of gin a day.
Oh. That's almost a sort of terminal dose, isn't it, I would think?
Pretty much, yes.
Graham now had a really serious drinking habit, and I was the guy who met with him every day. You see, the others didn't. The others just saw him when we got together to read, but I was carrying him, and at one stage he couldn't remember in the afternoon what we'd written in the morning. I mean, it was that bad.